Welcome to the Leaderish Podcast, leadership lessons straight up, with your hosts, Dr. Jen and Regina. Hey, Jen, how's it going?
Hey, Regina. I'm wonderful. How are you?
I am doing so well, but I need to be very specific on why I am doing so well.
I'm dying to know.
I know. Can you hear it?
I can hear it.
Okay. We received our very first email to leaderishpodcast@gmail.com.
So the only thing I've seen in that email inbox is all the crap we've signed up for in the last few weeks. So we actually received an email from a person.
It is legit, and I want to read it to you because
Please.
I think it will fill your cup. It is from Melinda, and she says, "You two are too cute. Just had a great walk listening to you both. Super proud of you two with making this happen. Found your second podcast on the state of women super interesting. Keep up the great work, and I'll keep listening."
I'm sorry, you're probably going to have to edit that out.
Totally not editing that out. How exciting is that?
That's amazing. I just can't believe somebody listened and then emailed us. That is truly awesome. And that's why we're doing this. So that's great.
Yeah, they actually took time out of their day to send us that very amazing note.
Also, someone signed up for our newsletter, which is really exciting. I think we've gotten like 80 something downloads. So it's really starting to take off, even though we launched way before we thought we were going to. But super exciting. And I literally was sitting at my computer like late one night drinking wine, Googling, how do you create a newsletter? And now we have a newsletter and someone signed up for it.
And we have no content.
Right. Oh, for the newsletter, you mean?
Right. The good news is after today's session with our very special guest, we are going to have some amazing content to share out. I'm super excited.
We sure are. Me too. So let's move into always my favorite segment of the show, which is the drink of the day. So Regina, what are you drinking today? It is Friday. It is after work hours. It is the weekend.
Yes.
What's in your cup?
Well, it's vodka. And it has, you can get a little sound of that. It has a little bit of mango sparkling water in it.
Well, that is very fruity.
How about you? Is it as fancy as our last episode?
It's on the same level. Okay. So let me just tell you, it is wine. However, this time it is not from a box.
Disappointing.
It is from a can. I'm not kidding. That was a can. So it is rosé. It is called Crafters Union Grace and Delicacy rosé from California.
Interesting.
So I am just going to go ahead and pour that. So I'll give you my review after I taste it. But it is rosé from a can, but it's from California, so it's legit.
Indeed. Well, let's introduce our guest, Laura Weldy, and let's see what she's drinking.
Yay. Rarely on podcasts do people ask me what I'm drinking, so this is so fun. I am drinking some bubbles from Woodland Wine Merchant. I don't actually know what the name of the specific bubbles I'm drinking are, but
does it really matter?
No, it does not at all. But Woodland has the best selection of really good wines, and it's local. So if you're in Nashville.
Oh, it's local in Nashville? Mm-hmm. That is so cool. Where are they located?
They've got a shop up in the little 5 Points area that we go to.
That's awesome. And I always love to support local wineries, breweries, distilleries. So thank you for sharing. That is wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, Laura, we are continuing to focus on women as, of course, we are still in International Women's Month, even if you're not listening during International Women's Month. And so we are absolutely thrilled to have you here with us. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited to be here too. I got overjoyed when I saw that you guys were starting this podcast because there's so much we could talk about. I could be on every session, I'll tell you what. But for the sake of giving you some background on who I am a women's leadership and career success coach based here in Nashville. And I've been working with women who are really high achievers, ambitious, driven in the corporate world on how to craft a career that they really love, that supports a lifestyle that they love, and really grow in their personal power and how they exercise that in the workplace. I'm super passionate about it because I've been a feminist my entire life, I would argue. And I experienced a lot of frustrating situations when I was in corporate America. And I've kind of taken it upon myself to make sure that fewer women encounter those obstacles as a result of my work.
What an amazing passion to work with women in corporate America to help build their confidence and help them determine what high potential is.
Yeah, because, what I saw for so long when I was unhappy in my corporate role was get over it or go work for yourself. And I just don't believe that those are the only two options. I want to see really smart, really innovative women stay in corporate America and keep doing bigger and better things. But so much of the self-help and personal development stuff out there is geared only towards entrepreneurs. So I'm hoping we can change that in the coming years and help women in corporate America really take back control of their careers and their experience in the career.
I'm so thankful that you actually reached out to us when you saw us talking about this podcast, and you are the perfect fit for how we want to empower women, especially during International Women's Month. And I think you are 100% right that there's not just two paths, or there's not just one path. Regina and I are lucky to work with a ton of empowered women who are empowering us to do this even. And so there is a place to find your confidence and find your voice in corporate America. And something you just said also made me think of our last episode, which was around the McKinsey Women in the Workplace research and how many women, because of the pandemic, are leaving the workplace, and how few women we had at senior levels to begin with before the pandemic. So making sure that women have a place in corporate America, incredibly important, especially now what we know from what we just talked about in our last two episodes. So what would you say to women on finding their confidence and empowering their own career?
Yeah. The hardest lesson and best lesson I had to learn when I was in corporate America is that nobody else could design my career for me. I spent too long in a very passive position in regard to my own employment, thinking I have a job, I'm getting paid, I'm doing well. And if I just continue to do well, then somebody will notice me and give me an opportunity to really shine and to step up and to lead. And I wasn't taking it upon myself to label myself as a high potential employee and start developing my own skills and developing my own clarity around what I wanted. And I realized, like, even if somebody had handed me this dream job on a silver platter, I wasn't really clear on what would go on that silver platter, so to speak. So because I didn't know what I wanted, I was just waiting to be given something. It was never going to come to me. So for me, a lot of the work I do with the women that I work with is first understanding what a job that actually supports the life you want looks like. And then understanding really where your natural skill set lies and how to work with those strengths versus working on refining what your perceived weaknesses are. And I think those two things in combination help to create the feeling of confidence, because confidence is just an experience, right? We can experience it technically any time that we want. We just tell our brain, remember a time we felt confident, and we can feel it. But what most people want is a sense of sustained earned confidence, like something that never leaves their side, right? And that comes from deep personal awareness, reflection, and a willingness to really own your own life experience in all areas.
Two things that you just said really stood out to me. One is, to have confidence to build on areas that you're already strong in. And I know I've said this in another episode, and we'll do a whole episode on it at some point, but I love StrengthsFinder. I love it because it is research-based by the Gallup organization, and it focuses on strengths instead of weaknesses because there is research via millions and millions of people that have taken StrengthsFinder. But there's research additionally out there that says if you work on your strengths, you can go from good or great to near perfection, like peak performance. If you work on your weaknesses, and I always use the example of me trying to do math, that's not a strength of mine. And so if I try to do math and I really work on it, I may someday become average. But my husband's good at math, so I don't really need to be good at math. And I never would achieve what I would achieve if I would work on my strengths and build on those. So I really love that. And then the other thing that I think resonated with me that you just said was, if we can teach women and anyone to understand that they own their own career early on, and that no one is going to come, hey, I've been noticing you. Here's a promotion. Occasionally that may happen, but if your leader or whoever doesn't know what you want, they can't help and advocate for you. And so I just had to say that because I wish that's something that I would have learned much younger in my career.
I love this idea of advocating for yourself and having the confidence to do so. Laura, how do you help women gather that confidence? Is that the right word? Gather? I think it is.
Yeah. There's a variety of ways we can do it, but branching off of this idea of StrengthsFinders, I loved StrengthsFinders too. I did it when I was in corporate America, and it was the very first experience I had of feeling validated in who I was and the value I brought to the table. So before I took the StrengthsFinders test, I was the polar opposite of nearly every person in my department. They were all very friendly, very relational driven. I was very statistics focused, very data driven. And I just always felt like I was doing things incorrectly. And when I took StrengthsFinders, it was a validation to me of, oh, it's not that you're doing anything incorrectly or that you're being the wrong kind of person. It's that you bring a different kind of value.
Which is actually an incredible value. If you bring different skill sets and strengths than everyone else on the team, that's when you really understand, oh, it's not that I'm just over here feeling like an oddball. I have a different set of skills that's valued and needed. And yeah, it really helps you to understand your own value and in the context of your team as well.
Yeah. And so when I got into the leadership development world that we all like to play in, I ended up developing my own personality test for women on leadership qualities and excellent leadership so that they could, similarly to my experience with StrengthsFinders, put a vocabulary behind the things that they bring to the table and really own those and understand that those things are valuable. So I think first that learning what you bring to the table.
Now I'm really excited. I had way too many statistics courses, and so I really geek out on assessment. So can you tell us a little bit about your assessment and what it does for the women that take it?
Yeah, so it's called the Personal Power Code, and it is an assessment / course that helps you understand what your natural tendency is within 5 elements of strong leadership. So it's a combination of qualities that we look for in leaders in the corporate space and also things that women tend to struggle with or that they think they struggle with. And I'll clarify that later. But for example, the first section of the Personal Power Code is all about the energy that you bring into a room. So in the corporate space, we'll call that executive presence, typically, gravitas, whatever you want to call it. And in the Personal Power Code, we're talking about it on an energetic level. So do you influence people by bringing them into your project, inviting them to be part of it by being a magnetic leader? Or do you influence people by showing them the facts and getting them engaged on a project outside of themselves and rallying them to a cause? So when you go through this course, you're learning, oh, this is what I do. This is what so-and-so does. How can I really intentionally leverage the way that I show up in the world so that I'm doing it intentionally instead of just showing up and then wondering all the time if I'm being a leader or not?
Yeah. I love that you're putting a language around it. What a great way to help women empower themselves
Mhm.
to be their own advocate.
Yeah.
I do think the language part is super important because it gives you vocabulary and validation, like you were saying.
I was going to say, just to wrap up this idea of how do I actually help them be confident. So we've got the personal power code, which is going to give you all the info you want. And I feel like women who are leadership minded always want more, always want more books. They always want to learn more. And it'll give you that. And then personal leadership coaching is about having somebody reflect those qualities back to you and then help you develop an action plan around how you're going to use those things. So I do a combination of neurolinguistic programming, which is, little exercises.
I love NLP. Yes, I am a total nerd. I love it. It's sort of how you can change the way your brain takes in information and what it does with it. And yeah, I love it. So fun.
Yeah, I describe it as like when you have to update the software on your phone or your computer.
Yep.
Like your phone or computer is working fine, but with the update, it has new capabilities and it's doing things better. So NLP is that process of, okay, what is my internal programming aligned with right now? Is it in alignment with where I want to be going? And if not, how do I upgrade it so that my brain is kind of on my own side? So we do some NLP as well as high gradient leadership coaching, which is about somebody holding you to your most excellent version of you on a daily basis.
Wow. That sounds amazing. Laura, how can our listeners find you?
Yeah, they can find me over on Instagram at Laura Weldy or at lauraweldy.com, where they can learn about the power code and all of the other fun things I'm up to.
And if you were to recommend one thing that our listeners could do within the next 24 hours, what would you recommend?
I'm going to recommend two. First thing first.
Wow, power play.
Love it.
Download my free guide for communication on my site. So I have a guide to how to communicate with confidence. It includes everything from like a formula on how to structure your arguments in a meeting to what you should be doing in your weekly check-ins with the people on your team to make sure that communication is happening at all levels of your organization. So that's number one. And that's on my site. And then number two, this one is so fun. You may have heard of it because I feel like the two of you are super savvy about these things. But there is a Chrome extension called Just Not Sorry. Have you all heard of this?
No, but I am intrigued because I have been working on the idea of not saying sorry for years.
Yeah, you have.
If you use Google Chrome, there is a Chrome extension in the store or wherever you get extensions called Just Not Sorry. And it's a plugin to make your communication more direct and stronger. So when you're using it, when you're writing your email in Gmail, it'll underline when you say things like sorry, just, when you use filler words and filler phrases, or anytime you self-deprecate in the email. I'm no expert, but, or I'm not positive, but, and it helps you eliminate those from your communication before you hit send.
We need to do an entirely new episode on just that, because for women specifically, it's relevant for everyone, but specifically for women, we hedge and minimize our words and our statements and our conversations, whether we're speaking or whether we're an email or text message or whatever. I catch myself doing it all the time. This may not make any sense, but I may be way off base here, but
does that make sense? Question mark at the end of everything that you say. Exactly.
Oh my gosh, you're reading my mind and my emails somehow, and now I'm concerned. But yes, that's exactly right. So I'm going to download that right away.
Yay.
That's fantastic.
I mentor a young lady from my university who is absolutely lovely. And so we were reviewing her LinkedIn and I'm like, let's get really strong with the words that we use so that we have dynamic meaning in those words. So I'm going to tell her about this too, or she'll probably listen and hear it too.
Listen, I could talk for days about gendered communication and everything that does to us in the workplace.
Me too.
But one of the reasons I talk about communication so much and why I recommended this plugin is because I truly, like, in my heart of hearts, I don't believe that women have a confidence problem. I believe that women have a contextual problem of how do I be my confident self in the workspace that doesn't always make adequate space for me to do it. So
That's so
so I
true.
want people to feel like they have tools to be able to bring that confident self to work, because most of the, really, really freaking cool women I know are super confident. They just question themselves in a different context.
Or they're afraid of coming across as bossy or like a bee.
Mhm.
It's very true. My mom gave me a sign last year, the year before, that says, "I'm not bossy. I just have leadership skills."
Yep.
And it's one of my favorite gifts that my mother has ever given me.
It's perfect. I remember it sitting on your desk
It was on my desk at work for a long time.
quite some time. Yeah.
Yeah, and now it has a completely different connotation and context that we're doing this and with regard to women. So I love that.
Absolutely. Wow, ladies, what a great conversation.
It's gone so fast.
I know, right? Let's move into, kind of one of our final segments as we wrap up our discussion. And that's really around, Jen, what are you doing to fill your cup?
I am finally focusing on myself a little bit. In the beginning of COVID, I wasn't really focusing on myself. We were all afraid. We didn't know what was happening. And now it's been a year. We're kind of getting back. So I am getting healthy, and I'm going to my Pilates classes all the time, eating a little bit healthier, sleeping a little bit better. And it just feels really good and makes me so energized. Regina, what are you doing to fill your cup?
Oh, Jen, I have been reading our 5-star reviews on Apple Podcast. And
Did you say reviews?
reviews? Yes, we have 4 5-star ratings.
4?
We have 4 5-star ratings, and we have 2 reviews. Maybe on our next episode, we'll read some of those reviews for our listeners.
I want to go read them right now because I haven't read them yet. So that's really exciting. Laura, what are you doing to fill your cup right now?
I was also going to say Pilates. So I love that we are both Pilates fanatics.
Yay.
Aside from that, this is so boring, but sometimes self-care is boring. I'm taking my vitamins.
That's not small and that's not boring, because I used to forget to do that all the time. And it does make a big difference when you take your vitamins all the time.
Like, I wish
Yeah.
buying them put them into my body. Unfortunately, I have to remember.
No.
And I'm not always the best at that. So
That is taking care of yourself, though, for sure.
Yeah, I had a friend who had a subscription service that would send her like these square packets with all the vitamins that
Yep.
she needed. I mean, I don't do that, but I too recently, just in the last 2 months, have started taking vitamins again.
nice.
Women out there, take your vitamins.
That's right. Don't forget your calcium and your D3.
We're not doctors, so please
We're not
talk to your
doctors.
physician
We're not doctors.
before you do that.
Valid point, Jen.
Oh, all right. Well, this has been absolutely wonderful. And if you would like to find us and send us some feedback, you want to be a guest, you know of a good guest, you want to talk to us, we want to hear from you. leaderishpodcast@gmail.com, Leaderish Podcast on Facebook, and Leaderish Podcast on Instagram. We're super creative. And Laura, you have been our very first guest, and this was a wonderful conversation. So cheers, ladies, to our first guest.
Cheers.
Cheers, Jen.